Something just happened inside the Cleveland Browns organization, and it could change the NFL forever. A private decision, made behind closed doors, has just leaked, sending shockwaves through the franchise, the league, and the fan base. For a team known for chaos, inconsistency, and quarterback heartbreak, this might be the most radical move they've ever made. Sources close to the team are saying owner Jimmy Haslam has made up his mind. And this isn't just a roster adjustment or a draft strategy tweak, this is a full-blown power shift. Haslam isn't just backing a young rookie, he's placing the future of the entire Browns franchise on his shoulders. The name that's now echoing through the halls of Berea? Shadur Sanders. And according to insiders, he's not just seen as the next quarterback, he's being treated like a savior. But who made that call? What convinced the Browns, top brass, to bet their future on a player who's barely scratched the surface of his NFL potential? And more importantly, what happens if this gamble goes wrong? Let's break down how one quarterback flipped the entire direction of a franchise, and why some believe this move could define the next decade of Cleveland football. It didn't happen at the draft. It wasn't some viral press conference or a big media moment on national TV. In fact, the public didn't see it coming at all. According to insiders close to the situation, the decision came quietly behind the scenes, late at night, in a meeting where only a handful of key figures were present. Jimmy Haslam sat across from his top decision-makers, looked them in the eye, and made it clear. Shadur Sanders is the future, not a backup, not a gamble, not a one-season experiment. The guy, the face, the one they're building everything around. And just like that, the Browns' entire trajectory shifted. It might not seem like a big deal to outsiders. A young quarterback gets support from ownership. That happens all the time, right? But if you've been following the Browns even loosely over the past 2 decades, you know this franchise has churned through quarterbacks like a revolving door. Promising prospects, short-term saviors, hyped veterans, all of them walked in with flashes of hope and left with nothing but regret. So for Haslam, a man who's seen stars burn out and seasons collapse, to double down like this, it's not normal, it's not cautious. It's bold, risky, and packed with meaning. Multiple reports say that this wasn't just a gut instinct. Haslam has been watching Shedeur closely even before the season started. Not just game day stuff either, film sessions, locker room presence, leadership in practices. He started asking more questions, getting more involved. Studying how players responded to him when they were down by 10. Some say what sealed it wasn't even a highlight play. It was during a closed-door team meeting after a rough week on the field. Shedeur stood up. No script, no speeches, just real talk. He held himself accountable, talked about where they had failed as a unit, and challenged the veterans without fear. According to one source in the room, the energy shifted instantly. Guys listened. That's when Haslam knew. This wasn't just raw talent. This was command. And for a quarterback in Cleveland, especially one trying to rewrite years of failure, that's rare. That's what the Browns haven't had maybe ever. But the decision to make Shedeur the focal point of the franchise isn't just emotional. It's strategic. Executives inside the Browns camp believe that building around him early, before the media fully catches on, gives the team a head start. They want to shape the narrative from the inside out. They're not waiting for the national media to crown Shedeur. They're making it happen themselves. One front office insider phrased it like this: "You don't wait for a guy to prove it beyond a doubt before giving him the keys. By the time you do that, it's already too late. Someone else is making that move. You have to see it before it's obvious." And Jimmy Haslam, he sees it. The timing couldn't be more critical. Questions about quarterback consistency have haunted the Browns for years. Big contracts wasted, locker rooms divided, coaches fired mid-season. You can't build a winning identity when the most important position on your team is a coin toss every Sunday. But this move changes everything. Internally, the Browns are shifting direction. That endless hunt for the next guy, it's over. Quarterback is no longer on the wish list. They're not scouting replacements. They're not weighing options. They're building around Shedeur. And this isn't lip service. Actions are already happening behind closed doors. The scout focus has turned, not toward quarterbacks in the NCAA or backups across the league, but toward offensive linemen, pass catchers, and defensive stability. They've decided, he's the guy, and now the job is to protect him, surround him, and let him control the tempo. It's rare to see a front office make that kind of shift so early. Usually, teams hedge. They cautiously back the young QB, add competition, and leave room to pivot out if things go sideways. Not here. Haslam isn't hedging anymore. But there's more to this than just football IQ and stats. According to those around him, Haslam sees something bigger in Shedeur. A face, a symbol, someone kids are already watching and imitating. Someone who can do what Baker Mayfield tried to do and failed. Someone who can reset the culture of football in Cleveland. And for a franchise with little stability and nearly zero national respect, that culture shift might be more valuable than any stat line. Of course, not everyone's buying it. As word spread, shockwaves hit the locker room. A few players weren't thrilled. Some veterans, sources say, were skeptical about elevating such a young player so early. Questions started buzzing. Was this a PR play? Are we already treating this guy like a hero when he hasn't even finished a full season? But those voices didn't last long. Haslam started making moves. Quietly, deliberately, players who weren't aligned with the new vision started disappearing, waived, benched, or quietly moved to the background. And it became crystal clear, this isn't just a feel-good moment. This is a franchise-wide reset. A new alpha has arrived in Cleveland. And this time, they're not waiting to see what happens. They're building around him now in real time. Because in Jimmy Haslam's mind, the future isn't coming. The future is already here. Jimmy Haslam didn't come to this decision overnight. Publicly, he's always played it cool, never showing his cards too early. But behind the scenes, those closest to him say he's been quietly obsessed with trying to find the guy ever since the Baker Mayfield experiment fizzled out. Not a stopgap, not a hype machine, a real leader. Someone who commanded respect before even earning it. Someone who made others believe. And apparently, Haslam thinks Shadur Sanders is that someone. What convinced him wasn't just what the cameras caught during game day. It was what wasn't seen. The hours after everyone had left the facility. The study sessions. The way Shedeur spoke to the coaching staff, not like he was trying to impress them, but like he belonged. According to several team staffers, there was one specific film session that turned heads. Shedeur broke down defensive tendencies with such precise recall that even the team's veteran coaching assistants were caught off guard. Not guessing, reciting. He wasn't asking what went wrong. He was explaining it back to them like a coordinator in cleats. That's when some in the room said it out loud. "We've never had that before." Haslam heard that, and that stuck. You can find talented quarterbacks. There's a new next up every April. You can find athletic freaks with cannons for arms and 4.4 speed. That's not rare anymore. But what is rare is the guy who walks into a room and naturally pulls the gravity toward him. And Shedeur, he's got gravity. That kind of presence is hard to define, but everyone feels it. Coaches, rookies, veterans, media members, even rivals who gaze across the line and realize he's not blinking. One former team executive, now working with a broadcaster, leaked what he heard from a defensive player on another squad. Shedeur talks like he's been in the league for 5 years. That was after playing him once. But not everyone is sold. There's still noise, especially from league analysts and traditional scouts. Some claim it's too soon. They cite lack of NFL mileage, the small sample size, the inevitable rookie wall that hits every young quarterback at some point. They're not completely wrong. History is brutal to quarterbacks crowned too early. We've seen hyped-up prodigies burn out overnight. Those careers become cautionary tales. Teams rush the process, fan bases demand greatness, and before the player even figures himself out, he gets buried under expectations he never asked for. So why would Haslam, a man who's witnessed that same story repeat over and over, choose to go all in right now? Because this time, he thinks the ending is different. Sources inside the Browns front office say Haslam sees in Shedeur something dangerously rare. A player self-aware enough to carry the pressure without letting it destroy him. A player who knows what's coming and leans into it anyway. Shedeur has openly talked about the pressure before, not just on the field, but the legacy, the name he wears, and the fact that people see the spotlight as a shortcut, not a burden. Most rookies avoid that kind of talk. Sanders, he stares it down. That mindset is why Haslam isn't waiting. He's not interested in running another QB carousel, hoping one sticks. Because once you find someone who isn't afraid of the moment, you don't waste time overthinking it. And Haslam's belief isn't just emotional, it's strategic. There's also a growing belief that Shedeur isn't just a promising quarterback. He's bulletproof PR. Think about it. Every time he steps onto the field, media outlets are glued to him. Major broadcasters feature his highlights, his post-game soundbites trend, and national fans who don't even watch Browns games are talking about him. You can't buy that kind of exposure. and Haslam knows it. He's seen teams like the Chiefs, Bengals, and even Buffalo use their young QBs to elevate the entire franchise's image from forgettable to must-watch. So Haslam is accelerating the process. If you're going to be the future, then be the face. And to be the face, you need the keys. No more committees. No more earn it week by week philosophy. They're locking in now while he's still hungry but already dangerous. But here's where it gets twisted. Internally, there's talk that some within the team weren't totally on board with this approach. Not because of Shedeur himself, but because of what this means moving forward. When ownership turns the entire machine toward one player this early, it changes everything. Coaching decisions start revolving around him. Personnel moves begin aligning with his strengths. Even play calling gets tailored away from the system and toward what works for Shedeur. If you're a coach or player who thought you were building a team first, with long-term structure and traditional patience, this move shakes the entire foundation of what you thought the Browns were doing, for better or worse. Because when a team builds around one player too soon, it backfires if that player cracks. There's no plan B, there's no fallback. It's all or nothing. That's the decision Haslam just made. And whether it ends in a renaissance or another notorious Browns collapse is now riding on one man's shoulders. The only question is what happens when the pressure goes from quiet expectation to global spotlight. Once the decision was made, everything inside the Browns organization shifted, and the first place that felt it was the locker room. It started subtly. One player not getting quite as many reps. A vet who used to be vocal in film rooms suddenly rotating to third-string drills. Analysts brushed it off as load management or minor tactical changes. But inside the facility, players could feel it. Lines were being drawn. Behind the scenes, GM Andrew Berry was executing something far more aggressive than most fans realized. This wasn't just about elevating Shadur Sanders. It was about clearing the path around him, and anyone not ready to buy into that vision. They were no longer a priority. Gone were the motivational speeches and team-first PR lines. This was a purge, controlled and calculated. Sources inside the organization reported meetings being held to evaluate not just performance but attitude. Not stats, alignment. An anonymous staffer even claimed that a checklist was created to determine who fully supported the Sanders era and who didn't seem all in. It sounds dramatic, maybe even a little paranoid. And yet, it makes sense. Because from Berry's perspective, what's the point of choosing a franchise quarterback if the people around him don't believe in him? And the truth is, not everyone did. Some veterans, especially on the offensive side, weren't thrilled about how quickly Shedeur was being handed so much control. The NFL is built around competition. Earn your snaps, fight for your job, prove it every week. But now, it felt like the rules had changed overnight. A rookie was being treated like a franchise face before he'd even been hit 5 Sundays in a row. Naturally, that didn't sit well with everyone. A few players voiced quiet concerns. Some questioned adjustments in game plans where certain schemes were clearly designed to make Shedeur more comfortable. Others raised eyebrows when a more experienced backup was passed over during a critical clutch situation, and it was Shedeur who stayed in. One incident, according to insider leaks, involved a film session where a senior receiver publicly challenged a missed read on Shedeur's part. The room reportedly went silent, not because the critique was harsh, but because it simply wasn't allowed anymore. The culture had shifted. This wasn't the same locker room. It was Shedeur's room now. Shortly after that, that same receiver traded. No press conference, no coverage, just gone. And that wasn't the only one. A handful of locker room voices either found themselves benched, shipped out, or told quietly they weren't part of the long-term vision. It wasn't just about performance, it was about messaging. If you weren't echoing belief in Shedeur, you were out. What Andrew Berry has done here is bold and maybe even risky. He's reorganizing the Browns not just as a football team, but as a message-driven machine. A team with one narrative, one face, one future. The old model, compete for every role. Stay quiet, follow the system. The new model, support the quarterback or get left behind. Some critics are already calling it authoritarian. Others call it smart. Because when you find your star, your real face of the franchise, the biggest priority isn't just grooming him, it's protecting him. You remove distractions. You eliminate internal politics. You insulate that player from doubt before it spreads. And if we're being honest, NFL history backs this up. When you look at the titans of the league today, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, one trend is clear. Their GMs built the room around them, not beside them. They didn't treat their quarterbacks like one of 53. They treated them like the core of the machine, and everything else clicked into place. That's the vision forming in Cleveland right now, and it's not stopping anytime soon. According to leaked reports, the Browns are eyeing multiple free agents at skill positions who fit Shedeur's playstyle: fast, agile, cerebral receivers who can adapt mid-route. Even scouting has changed focus. Instead of drafting from the top of positional charts, insiders claim scouts are prioritizing chemistry fits first, talent second. No drama, no egos, just players who can operate under one purpose: make Shedeur succeed. And if they do, well, they won't be in Cleveland much longer. The message from the front office is now crystal clear. This is no longer a quarterback competition. It's a quarterback construction project, and the entire franchise is the construction crew. You're either building with them or you're out of the room. And that's starting to have ripple effects. Players who once kept to themselves are now publicly praising Sanders. Former critics are tweeting support. Post-game interviews now echo words like "our guy," "our leader," and "the kid's different." It feels authentic, but also unmistakably coordinated. A shared message, one voice. Whether that voice belongs to the players or the front office, that's up for debate. But one thing is obvious: Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam are not interested in opinions anymore. The loyalty test has been issued, and the Browns' roster is now as much about identity as it is about talent. That may scare fans who have seen this team flip directions too many times to count. But for Haslam and Berry, this isn't just another turning point. This is the plan they believe they've been waiting for since the first time they saw Sanders take control under pressure. And if that means cutting fan favorites, silencing doubt inside the locker room, or re-architecting the team from the top down, so be it. Because in their minds, they're not just defending Shadur Sanders. They're building a dynasty around him. From the inside, it looks like a master plan. But from the outside, it's starting to look dangerously familiar. The national media is already taking notice, and not all of it is kind. In fact, some analysts are calling the Browns' sudden embrace of Shadur Sanders not courageous, but reckless. And you can't really blame them. Cleveland fans have been down this road before, too many times. Rookie hype, quarterback promises, fresh saviors rolled out every few seasons. And every time, the result has been the same: short-lived excitement followed by long-term regret. A flash-in-the-pan moment that collapses under the weight of expectations no one could realistically carry. Go all the way back through the Browns' quarterback graveyard: Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, even Baker Mayfield. Each one held up as the one. Each one eventually flamed out, whether due to poor performance, lack of support, or full-on system failure. So when Jimmy Haslam turns all his chips over to a rookie again, critics pounce quickly. Not because they're rooting against Shedeur, many of them are fans of his game, but because they've seen this movie before, and they know how it ends. Some insiders in NFL media are now privately questioning whether Haslam is overcorrecting, trying too hard to force a face onto the franchise instead of letting one naturally rise. They're asking whether giving Shedeur this level of power, so early, is dooming him in the same way others failed, not because of talent, but because of timing. And timing in the NFL is everything. It's rare that a young player is handed the full weight of a franchise before they've fully adapted to the speed, physicality, and pressure that comes with every Sunday. And yet, that's exactly what's been done here. The Browns aren't letting this happen slowly. They're in hyperdrive. Some say it's too much, too fast. One former executive, speaking anonymously to a national outlet, put it bluntly: "You don't crown a savior before you survive the war." And the war has just begun. Right now, the Browns have pulled together a neat little honeymoon. Wins have smoothed over the cracks. Highlight plays have silenced early season criticisms. Shedur's poise under pressure has earned plenty of people's respect. But what happens when a losing streak hits? What happens when the offensive line breaks down, when the defense folds, or when Shedeur finally has that one bad game the media's been begging for? Will the team still circle around him? Will fan support stay glued, or will the early crown become a target? Because with every success, the expectations grow. No longer is Shedeur being measured against other rookies, now he's being compared to the elite. Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, and that pressure compounds quickly. And that's where things get dangerous. The Browns aren't built to lose quietly. This is a franchise that lives in the headlines, good or bad. So when they lose, it's not just embarrassing, it's nuclear. The entire brand trembles. The fan base groans, the online noise gets vicious. And now, unlike before, all of that pressure has a single face: Shadur Sanders. He didn't ask to be the hero, not publicly. He just stepped in and did the job. But the Browns made the choice for him. They didn't just hand him the ball. They handed him the weight of a city still starved for a winner. And you can feel it building. The national press has started probing the cracks. Headlines are getting sharper. Too much, too soon. The risk of building around a rookie. Bold or blind, they're planting seeds of doubt, not just in Sanders' ability, but in the Browns' decision-making. Some are even calling this a panic move masquerading as a masterstroke, labeling Haslam's decision not a strategy, but desperation. Another swing-for-the-fences decision from an owner who's tired of watching small ball fail year after year. And when things go wrong in Cleveland, historically, they don't just unravel, they explode. Fair or not, Shedeur now carries that weight with every step. Every press conference, every third down throw, every sideline interaction, all of it is getting dissected frame by frame. Normal rookie mistakes now amplified into national talking points. Media cycles don't wait anymore. They don't give grace. They build you up, then keep cameras rolling when you fall. Haslam and Barry clearly believe Shedeur doesn't just understand that, they believe he thrives in it. That's why they moved aggressively. That's why they cut the doubters early and surrounded him with hand-picked allies. But not even the strongest talent can control the storm if the foundation isn't ready. And right now, everyone's watching for the cracks. Because when the bar gets this high, there's only one direction to fall. Of course, none of this criticism guarantees failure. Plenty of quarterbacks have been questioned early and gone on to become legends. But every single success story has one thing in common. They had teams that shielded them long enough to grow into the pressure. And what scares some analysts is, Cleveland might have already blown that window. Instead of building a fortress around their QB quietly, the Browns put him in the middle of a spotlight on purpose. No buffer, no safety net, all reward and all risk. The move is setting up one of the most fascinating NFL experiments in recent memory. If it works, Haslam and Barry go down as visionaries. The Browns become contenders. Shedeur becomes a myth in real time, but if it fails, it could set the franchise back another decade. Because what's happening right now in Cleveland isn't just about football, it's about belief, bet, brand, and whether or not Shadur Sanders is ready to carry all three. In every young quarterback's journey, there's a moment. A point in time where the spotlight burns brightest and they either rise or disappear. For Shadur Sanders, that moment came against the Tennessee Titans. It wasn't just a game, it was a test. A live fire trial run, an opportunity and a trap at the same time. The Titans didn't show up just to play. They came to pressure. They came to hunt. A veteran defense, built to confuse and collapse rookie quarterbacks, smelling blood in the water and ready to turn Sanders' hype into humiliation. From the opening snap, you could feel the tempo was faster. The pocket closed quicker. The windows were tighter, and those classic rookie mistakes? Titans defenders were baiting them on every throw. Most young QBs, they panic, they overthink. They lock eyes on their first read and fold the moment it disappears. But not Shedeur. He adjusted. He waited. He found the breathing room no one else could see. Midway through the second quarter, the Browns were down. They couldn't find rhythm. The Titans had momentum, and the Browns' offensive line was starting to leak pressure like a broken pipe. And that's when it happened. Third and long, deep in their own territory. The kind of drive where most coaches think, just don't turn it over. But Shedeur didn't play it safe. He didn't dump it off. He stepped up into collapsing chaos and delivered a dime, 28 yards, split between two defenders, straight into the numbers. It didn't just move the chains, it changed the energy. The stadium came alive. His teammates locked in. You could see it one play later. Huddle communication sharper, body language more focused, sideline suddenly alert. He wasn't just managing the situation, he was taking it over. The drive continued in that same rhythm, clinical, calm, dominant. Sanders read the zone, changed protections, even audibled pre-snap twice. The Browns scored on that possession. And just like that, the tide turned. What followed was arguably his most professional-looking game to date. Completion after completion. No forced throws, fluid pocket presence. And most of all command, he wasn't reacting anymore, he was dictating. Even the Titans' coaching staff looked surprised. They threw every look they had, delayed blitzes, disguised coverages, nickel packages disguised as base, and Sanders made the right call over and over. Then came the final drive. Tie game, 2 minutes left, ball on their own 20. The kind of drive that defines entire narratives, especially for rookies. Coaches hesitated, fans held their breath. But Shedeur, still composed, still focused. You could almost see it in his eyes, he wanted the ball. And what he did next, that's the moment when the air shifted. In just over a minute and a half, Sanders marched the team downfield with surgical efficiency. A perfectly timed sideline throw, an inside slant to beat the blitz. A risky, almost impossible back shoulder fade that found its mark right between two defenders. He wasn't playing to survive. He was playing to win. Eventually, the Browns got within range, drained the clock, and sealed the game with a field goal. But the scoreboard didn't tell the real story. What happened in that final drive wasn't just about points. It was about credibility. Everything the front office had claimed about him, poise, leadership, intelligence, it all showed up at once. And this time, it was undeniable. Analysts who had questioned him for weeks were now doubling back on live TV. Rival defenders admitted post-game that he had full control, rare words from opponents. One AFC East scout reportedly sent a text to his GM that night. "If this is how fast he levels up, we're in trouble." But what mattered most was the reaction from the Browns' locker room. Guys who had been unsure, quiet, distant, were now standing a little closer on the sideline. Veterans who hadn't fully bought in were nodding after each pass. For the first time, everyone seemed to be playing for his success. Not because they were told to, but because he earned it. It was a moment, his moment, the one that turned Shadur Sanders from a promising name in headlines into a problem for every defense in the league. And suddenly, the conversation shifted. No more college hype talk, no more wait and see, no more tiptoeing around comparisons. That night, under the heat of a veteran defense, trailing on the scoreboard with trust still fragile, Shadur Sanders became the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Not because someone said so, because he proved it. The numbers don't lie. As Shadur Sanders became a rising force on the field, something just as powerful was happening off it. Ticket sales began to spike. Browns merchandise, once collecting dust for years, flew off shelves. Jersey orders hit record highs, and social media, especially TikTok, Instagram, and X, lit up with clips, debates, edits, even memes about Sanders' growing legend. And here's the twist. This fan movement didn't build up slowly over seasons like most young stars. It exploded almost overnight. One moment, fans were hesitant. You could feel it, cautious optimism, whispers, maybe he's got something. But after that Titans game, after those clutch throws, doubt evaporated. By the following week, the stadium atmosphere had changed. Lines outside the gates wrapped around the block. Students and families wearing too were everywhere. Commentators on national broadcasts noticed it too. Cleveland felt alive again, not just because of hope, but because the city now had a face. And that's something Cleveland hasn't truly had in years. Sure, they've had big names before, brief flashes of excitement, moments of promise that sputtered, but nothing stuck. Nothing shifted the culture. Until now, Shadur didn't just win games, he moved energy. When he was shipped in as a rookie, people expected a learning curve, a few sparks, maybe some growing pains. No one expected a fan base to realign itself around him in real time. And yet, that's exactly what happened. The craziest part? You could measure it. During the short stretch where Shadur sat out with a minor injury, something strange happened. Ticket prices plummeted. Resale numbers fell, attendance dipped, and crowd engagement during the games flatlined. That wasn't random. That wasn't just a fluke. That was clear, real-time proof. Cleveland wasn't watching the Browns anymore, they were watching Shadur. Even local businesses noticed. Sanders-themed restaurants and drink specials popped up. A mural appeared outside a downtown bar 3 days after his second career win. One of Cleveland's biggest sports shops reported a 312% spike in QB1 jersey sales over a 2-week period. And the Browns' front office? Oh, they were watching it all. To them, this was more than a winning streak. This wasn't just about football anymore. This was branding, community revival, and maybe most importantly, a new identity. Executives realized something powerful was happening. Cleveland wasn't just rooting for the Browns again, they were connecting to them. Through Shadur, fans who had stopped watching years ago, worn down by disappointment and drama, were now tuning in again. Gen Z kids who never really claimed the Browns were suddenly obsessed. The younger audience that every NFL team is desperate to capture, the Browns now had them, because Shadur Sanders wasn't just a quarterback. He was cool, magnetic, polarizing in the best way. The kind of figure who turns casual observers into ride-or-die believers. The kind of athlete who transcends the field and becomes a movement. That's why, behind closed doors, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam wasn't just thinking about touchdowns, he was thinking about marketing. Sources say the conversations shifted quickly after Shadur's breakout. No longer just football strategy meetings, these were brand sessions. Image development, sponsorship roadmaps, talks with major apparel brands, coordinated social media pushes. It wasn't just about playbooks anymore. It was about platforms. Because while most rookies are focused on surviving the season, Shedeur, he was building a personal empire, and the Browns saw the opportunity to ride shotgun. According to one internal exec, Haslam made his vision clear. He's not just our quarterback, he's our brand. And he's already delivering. Videos of Shedeur breaking down coverages mid-game, viral. Clips of him hyping up fans post-win, millions of views, custom cleats, trending every game. Post-game outfits, headline-worthy in sports and fashion media. Week by week, Sanders is becoming more than a player. He's becoming a symbol, not just for Cleveland, but for what it looks like when a team stops trying to be pretty and starts being proud again. Traditionally, QB1 is game manager, team leader, coach's guy. With Sanders, the position has evolved. He's all that, but also influencer, cultural figure, and economic driver. And fans, they're here for it. Right now, you'll hear the same phrases over and over on Cleveland streets. He's different. He's that dude. This time, it feels real. That's not just hype, that's identity setting. That's the spark every struggling franchise dreams of but rarely finds. And the shift we're seeing right now, it's no longer about stats or schemes. It's about how one young quarterback completely reversed the emotional gravity of an entire city. And suddenly, for the first time in what feels like forever, the Cleveland Browns aren't just watchable, they're must-watch. Jimmy Haslam has always been a businessman first. Before football, before Cleveland, before stadium lights, this was a guy who made billions from running one of the largest truck stop chains in America. But what separates good businessmen from visionaries is the ability to see value before the world does. And with Shadur Sanders, Haslam isn't just seeing a quarterback. He's seeing something bigger, a brand, a machine. The future identity of the Cleveland Browns, and maybe even the city itself. Sources close to the team suggest that Haslam is thinking 5 moves ahead. While most owners focus on building playoff rosters, brand equity, and season ticket renewals, Haslam is reportedly moving far beyond that. He's betting that Shedeur won't just elevate the team, he'll become the team. Not just leader, not just star, icon. It started with subtle shifts. Shedeur featured more prominently in Browns promotional content. Game day bills and stadium banners shifted from generic logos to Sanders-centered visuals. Jerseys with his name on them began outselling every other player by a wide margin. Then came the rollout. Endorsement talks began quietly, not just with cleat sponsors or traditional NFL partners. We're talking lifestyle brands, apparel companies looking to make Shedeur the next face of the new school quarterback. The kind who wears diamond chains to the podium, but still knows your playbook better than anyone in the building. One insider said it best. Shedeur is part Patrick Mahomes, part Day-in legacy, and part social media influencer. That's an empire just waiting to be monetized. And Haslam, he knows that. He's approved internal resources to build out Sanders' image, everything from brand consulting firms to individualized content teams working side by side with the Browns' media department. This isn't normal. Quarterbacks get help with interviews, not image strategy. But this quarterback, he's getting the red carpet. Because if you're trying to make someone the face of a franchise for the next 10 years, you don't wait, you scale. Fast. There's already talk that the Browns are partnering with Shedeur on community initiatives that blend performance and personal vision, not just team-hosted charity events, but his platform. His own foundation, his own causes, fully backed by ownership. Why? Because Haslam sees where this is going. Let's be honest. Football is volatile. Seasons collapse, injuries happen, but brands are durable. They stick around. They grow even when the scoreboard doesn't. If Sanders becomes not just a great quarterback, but an impactful symbol, someone with gravity on and off the field, the Browns become more than just a team. They become a movement. And movements don't fade. So this is no longer just about Cleveland trying to win games. This is Cleveland trying to reintroduce itself through the lens of a 20-something-year-old with national charisma and local roots. A player who already trends online when he wears a custom suit or drops a one-liner in a post-game interview. It's working, too. Shedeur's social following has exploded since his rookie debut, drawing in fans who couldn't name one Browns player a year ago. Suddenly, it's not just Cleveland kids rocking his jersey. He's pulling eyes from Houston, LA, Atlanta, Miami, because Shedeur doesn't speak like a rookie. He doesn't move like one. He doesn't even market like one. He markets like a brand. and Haslam knows exactly what that means. Internally, some staffers joke that these days, there are two marketing departments inside the Browns organization, one for the Browns and one for Shedeur. The line between team and quarterback is starting to blur. Post-game coverage always includes him. Media requests go through his PR team first. Sponsorship deals are being reviewed with dual branding in mind. How will this reflect on Shedeur and the Browns? Everything's evolving. And while most owners would pull back at this much early exposure for a rookie, Haslam is leaning in hard. He wants Shedeur in commercials, on podcasts, in the community, on the cover of digital NFL content. Visibility equals value. To him, this isn't flooding the spotlight. This is future-proofing the brand. And there's a reason he's fine with this level of spotlight, because Jimmy Haslam isn't preparing for one season of success. He's preparing a legacy. Build the team around the quarterback. Build the brand around the face. And if that face shines bright enough, you don't just revive a dying franchise, you redefine it. Of course, with this kind of exposure comes a darker risk. The bigger the spotlight, the harsher the judgment. And up next is the moment that could either solidify everything or shake the entire empire. Because Haslam's all in on Sanders, there's no backup plan anymore. The final bet? That this quarterback can be more than clutch, more than famous, that he can be unforgettable. This is it, the point of no return. The Browns have made their move and every sign says they're all in. No hedging, no safety net, no veteran waiting behind the curtain if things fall apart. This entire franchise, from locker room strategy to marketing playbook to fan identity, is now riding on one player. And it's not just about whether Shadur Sanders can play. That much we already know. He's shown the flashes, made the throws, rallied the huddle, climbed out of chaos and turned it into control. But here's the thing nobody's quite sure of yet: can he carry it? All of it. The city, the pressure, the weight of a franchise and a legacy starved for success. Because what the Browns have done here isn't just a football decision, it's a franchise reset button. If Shedeur dominates, this era becomes the story that changes everything. Fans will look back at 2025 as the year Cleveland woke up. The year the Browns stopped being a joke and found their identity again, built around a young quarterback with unshakable swagger and real-time leadership. If this gamble works, the Browns become the blueprint, the model. Other franchises will try to copy it. Drop a rookie into chaos and build the system around his personality, not the other way around. Invest in the brand before the trophies come, and let the brand bring the trophies with it. But if it crashes, the fallout could wreck everything. No plan B, no developmental backup plotting in the shadows. No long-term, if this doesn't work, clause. The Browns have poured time, titles, sponsorship deals, full-on marketing strategy, and emotional fan investment into a single outcome. Shedeur succeeds, or they fall right back into the abyss. And remember, this is Cleveland. The margin for error, thin. The patience, worn. The expectation, sky high. When you crown someone the guy this fast, this loudly, there's no room for a sophomore slump. No off games, no excuses. Every pick is a controversy. Every loss is a headline. The media's already circling. The fans are watching every move. And while for now, everything is sunshine and touchdowns, we all know how fast that can flip. But maybe that's exactly what makes this so powerful. Maybe that's why this might actually work. Because Shedeur doesn't look scared of the pressure. He walks into it like it's part of the job. Where other young quarterbacks scramble to survive, he's camped out in the spotlight, thriving, owning it, elevating everything around him. And when your franchise has been lost in the shadows for as long as Cleveland has, maybe what you need isn't caution. Maybe you need fire. And that's what Shedeur brings. Not just fancy throws or cool cleats, fire. Intensity, confidence. A reason for 14-year-old kids in Ohio to wear Browns jerseys again without apology. A reason for older fans, burned out by years of heartbreak, to believe again. Jimmy Haslam didn't just sign a quarterback. He's planting something deeper, a new identity. A new era, a new hope that maybe, just maybe, this time it all comes together. And if it does, Shadur Sanders won't just be the face of a team. He could become the most important name in the history of Cleveland football. But that future hasn't been written yet. The true test is still coming. The next losing streak. The next injury scare. The next game-winning drive with everything on the line. That's where we find out. Is Shadur Sanders just another hot start wrapped in a social media boost? Or is he every bit the franchise-altering force the city believes he can be? We're about to find out. So now it's your turn. Do you think Shadur Sanders is the real deal, or is Cleveland making the biggest gamble in franchise history? Has Jimmy Haslam made a bold move or a massive mistake? And how long do you think this fairy tale can last? Drop your opinions in the comments. We're reading everyone. Let's talk. If you're just as locked in as we are, hit like, smash that subscribe button, and turn on notifications, because Shadur Sanders' story is just getting started. And trust us, you'll want to be here to see how it ends.